And welcome to Ditch Witch Diaries. Today we are gonna start out. We're continuing on with trees, and I'm so excited to for this like little double header of trees because it's kind of in the same grouping. Raven's gonna talk about it. So kick us off.
All right, so let's see. Okay, so we are talking about poplar tree. So this is a botanical. This is what it looks like in its natural habitat by the water. Um, Now it is in the willow family. I couldn't say that last time.
Tell us,
Salicaceae,
say I don't know.
Salicaceae, whatever, something like that. The willows that,
I
as we
can't
know, I love. I
either.
know, me neither. So the genus is the Populus, and then species, there's somewhere between 25 to 35 like recognized species, although as we've mentioned before, counting the specific number of species can get difficult with like cross-pollination and cultivation and all of that stuff. So, we're going to talk about some of the major species. We have four or five, I think. So, first we have the eastern cottonwood. This is native to North America. It's one of the largest hardwood trees that we find in like the eastern side of North America. Known for its triangular leaves and like cottony seeds, very cotton, hence the cottonwood. And then I also have a little picture. Let me move our window. There we go. It's of the very kind of triangular shaped leaves, which is different than a lot of other popular species. Then we have the quaking aspen,
Hey, that's
which is nice.
mine.
Nice. Yeah, which is so a lot of so aspen is a like group of species within the poplars, and so I'm going to try to stay away from aspen since we will talk about that in the next one. But I do just want to say that it is a major species. It's known for its quaking, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but very widespread. And then more on, I am hoping not that I'm not touching or like stepping on your toes here, but
You are. I
it's
talked about
known,
that. It's
okay,
okay.
okay.
It's okay.
It's
We'll
known
repeat it
for
next
like,
time. So,
yeah, and I'm not going to go too into it. I just wanted to like show you, but it's known for like big colonial colonies, like of the branching from the roots. So I just wanted to show you a picture real quick, but I'm sure that we'll talk about this. But it like they stem from this massive, massive root system. Okay, then we have the white poplar, native to Europe and Asia. It is called the white poplar because the underside of the leaves are white, very distinctive. And it's often planted ornamentally because of the like interesting color combination of the green and white together. Then we have the black poplar, native to Europe, Asia, Africa, and it's the parent species to the Lombardy poplar, which is this one, which is the most common tree usually used in for like windbreaks and landscape trees. They're like the tall, skinny ones that you see people use for like boundarying their property, and it's to help kind of break apart the wind. If you're in a very flat area, there can be a lot of wind sweep, and so a lot of times they'll plant the trees to break that up a little bit. But this is what it looks like wild. So I mean, even wild, it's still very like tall and pretty thin. And then we have the balsam, which we already presented on this in the Balm of Gilead, which we can link. But this is known for its like really fragrant resin, which is how the Balm of Gilead is created. And then, so those are the big species. So as you can see, it's not just poplar species. There's aspen species, there's cottonwood species. So I am going to, in this presentation, try to keep everything specifically to poplar species. So it's going to be mostly be the white poplar and the black poplar, but there's not a lot of information when you're looking up stuff on poplar. A lot of information just gives you, a lot of places just give you information on aspen. So some genus characteristics, we have really fast growth. They are really, really fast growing. And so they're often used for like timber, paper production because you can replant them very quick and they grow very quickly. They're also deciduous, and they're known for their catkin flowers, which we've talked about a few times, which are like the droopy, elongated, like flower clusters. And the flowers usually bloom before the leaves emerge, which we've talked about in, I think, two other species at this point, or two other. genus, probably. Um, it does also have the different flowers, male flowers and let's see, male flowers and female flowers are not on the same tree. They occur on separate trees. So we typically have like male trees and female trees. And then we do see the cottony seed dispersal. Now, this is even more obvious and apparent in the cottonwood trees, but all the trees in this genus have a little
Populus.
bit of like a, yeah, cottony. And then a significant preference for moist habitats, which is one of the reasons why it's part of the willow species. Because if you saw our willow, we talked about how willows also are like very much right on the edge of wetlands, and usually their roots kind of go into the water. And it's the same for poplar. And then we do see the trembling leaves in some species, not all of them, but especially the aspens. Oh, and then I'm sure you'll talk about this, but this is like an example of why the leaves tremble, the flattening of the stems, but I'm not going to get too much into that. So other names, not a ton. Populus is believed to come from like the populus Latin, meaning people or like popular tree, because it's believed they were planted in really public spaces in ancient Rome. So a couple names, the whispering tree, the trembling tree, specifically for aspens, the people's tree, pioneer tree, because they colonize like the disturbed land really quickly. But that's pretty much it. Again, I see different names for different species. So there's different names for aspens, there's different names for other ones, but I didn't really find any names for like the poplar species. Okay, so some history and lore. There's a lot of different species native to North America, but again, they're really fast growing, and so sometimes they're known as weed trees because they just shoot up so quickly. And the wood is a little bit porous. Again, it grows quickly, and so it's really commonly used for paper, as I said, but also things like wooden kitchen items, and they are a really popular log for growing shiitake mushrooms. So we see
Oh,
this here.
look at that.
Yeah. Pretty cool, I know. Little
Very
shroomy
cool.
guys. Um, it's also good for coppicing. I don't know if that's how you
Coppice?
say that.
Yeah, coppice.
Coppicing. So which essentially is where you like cut it really close to the base in winter. And so the new shoots grow up from like the parts that were cut, and then you can harvest those. So it's kind of um like reproducing in the same stump, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's also really commonly used to like reclaim damaged land, because it helps remove toxins from the soil, and it helps like again, mushrooms really like it, so that's going to help with like the minerals and stuff in the soil. So it's really good for helping kind of hard soil. Then we have Panda, which I'm not going to talk about because I'm assuming you're going to talk about this one too. Are you going to talk about this one?
No.
Oh, okay. So,
Oh, you know
Pando
what I do?
is
I do talk
okay,
about
okay,
that.
okay,
I
okay,
maybe. I don't know if I talk about it as panda, but I do talk about like one of the largest living.
okay.
Yes.
So then I'll just kind of skim
Just
over it. But
touch on it. It's okay because you know what?
yeah,
I don't like talk about it in the same way. Like you're talking about it very like talking about like if you were like to take apart a human body, like you're talking about like each part. Like I
yes.
like how you're like going at it because it's a completely different like view than I am. So I love it. I'm
Okay.
like learning a lot,
Yeah.
and I did it on an aspen, and I'm like, oh,
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so I didn't like prepare much material because I figured you would,
yeah.
but Pando is a place in Utah, I believe it is. It's a massive. This is not even the best picture. I found a really good picture, but it was kind of blurry, so I didn't want to
Oh,
add it. But it's a massive colony of oh, it is, yeah, in Utah. And it's considered not one of, it's actually considered the largest and oldest living organism on Earth, like genetically, because this is all of these trees are
or
just
one
shoots
organism.
from one root. Yeah,
That
from one
is.
root system. And
Yeah.
so it's considered like the largest because it's like spread out. So that's what I'm going to say on it. But That's Pando. So let's talk about some lore. So again, I'm trying to kind of focus on Poplar. So we have some Greco-Roman lore. We have Leuce, who is the most beautiful of the Oceanids, who's like a water nymph in both. One of my squirrels are here. In both Greek and Roman, they have stories of Oceanids, I think is how you say it. But in the Greek story, Leuce, I don't know how you say that, but she was loved by Hades, and then when she died, he turned her into the first white poplar tree. Um, and then obviously for the Roman story, it's the same story, but different characters. We have Leuce and Pluto. But this is it's just like he loved Pluto slash Hades, loved the tree so much that when she died, he turned her into the tree to like create everlasting beauty from her body.
Oh.
I know. And then again, just kind of skimming over this, but why aspen leaves tremble. So the Christian folklore version says that the quaking or trembling is tied to stories of the crucifixion.
We'll go into this
And
more
okay,
when we
good.
go
Yeah,
into
I
this.
figured.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then pre-Christian, leaf movement was associated with like spirits that were alive or like whispering and things like that. So then we have Roman or the Hercules and the Roman myth. So the poplar is associated with Hercules, who's said to have crowned himself with white poplar to celebrate his return from the underworld. And I tried to find like an actual art piece depicting this, and this was found in Pompeii.
Wow.
But I
That's
know. Yeah,
amazing.
it's pretty cool. You can kind of see it's like like a museum, but that's some white, you can kind of see the white poplar
Uh-huh.
leaves. And then also the white poplar crowns were presented to winners of like the Hercules games. And then something interesting. So Pausanias, who was a second century Greek travel historian. He would travel, I've never heard of him, but I looked into him. He traveled everywhere. And
Mhm.
so he like essentially wrote down stories and stuff he heard when he was traveling. And he wrote this book called Description of Greece. And then this is like the literal translation of the book, which might be kind of cool, actually. I might think about getting a copy of this, but
Nice.
and I don't often buy books written by men, but I may do so. So he says, so again, he's just like a really old-timey Greek travel historian, okay? But he said that the Hellenes, is that how you say that? Hellenes, which is the like a region in Greek, right? It's where Olympia is. That the people there used white poplar wood for like sacrifices, not necessarily human sacrifice. He did, I just on what little I found, he didn't talk about sacrificing specifically, but even if we're sacrificing the wood, right?
Yeah.
Wood sacrifices because he said Hercules had brought them the custom. So Hercules had brought the custom of using the wood in like ceremonial traditions. And so it's believed that the this is partially why they were using white poplar. So, anyways, just interesting little book. And then some shrines from the Roman period show poplar motif and decoration. You can also see that a little bit here. It's kind of hard because it's not super clear. Um, in decoration, and some statues show Hercules again crowned with that poplar. You can see a lot of busts of Hercules with the popular crown too.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, so then we have some Greek myth. So this is the story of Phaethon. I had to look up how to say that. So Phaethon was the son of Helios, who's the sun god, and so Phaethon wanted proof of his like divine parentage, right? And so he asked to drive his father's sun chariot across the sky for a day, and Helios was like, "Ugh, okay, I guess, like reluctant. And then Phaethon, in typical like teenage boy fashion, couldn't control the horses. And so the chariot veered wildly. Some stories say that he flew too high, causing the earth to freeze. Some stories say that he plunged too low, scorching the world. But the story is that the destruction started, and in order to try to contain it, Zeus struck him with a thunderbolt, killing him. And then that kind of quarantined off the destructive area. And then after his death, his sisters collectively were called the Heliades. They mourned him beside a river. So they would go to this river and cry and mourn. And then the gods transformed them into poplar trees. And even after becoming trees, they continued weeping and their tears hardened into amber that you can kind of see on poplar trees like this. And this is also believed to be why they grow near water.
Interesting. And also,
Yeah.
he is the sister to Circe because Circe's father is
Mm,
Helios as well.
nice. Yeah, I think they're half siblings or something like that.
Yes.
I don't
Yep,
know.
they
Yeah.
are.
All the Greeks, man, everybody's just
They're
really,
all
really
interbred.
funny. Um, oh, this was another interesting
Oh,
book I came across.
I talk a little bit about that, but not much.
That's okay.
So,
Okay, I don't talk about much either, but so Robert Graves mentions the white poplar and the white goddess as one of the trees of resurrection, along with Adler and Cypress. And so this is just a quote. I was like, "Oh, what's this book about?" And so this is just a quote of like what the
yeah.
book is about. The white goddess, a historical grammar of poetic myth, is a complex and influential 1948 book by Robert Graves that argues for a primordial moon-associated goddess of birth, love, and death as the source of all true poetry, contrasting this ancient matriarchal faith with patriarchal order. It is a scholarly yet personal work that blends mythology, anthropology, and literary
I
criticism.
think I
So
need this book.
I think I need this too,
I think
actually. I
I
have
need
two
this
now.
book. Yeah,
Yeah,
go get
I
this
have
book, The
two for
White
this
God.
one.
I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah, interesting.
I know.
Oh, I just bought The Witching Tree too. I'm very excited about that
Oh,
one.
nice.
That one was kind of hard to find,
Oh,
actually. Yeah, but so I'm excited. So
like
yes, adding this
the
to my list.
Boyers, Corinne Boyers, yes.
Mm,
She has two other books that are a little expensive and difficult to find as
mm,
well, but they're very
interesting.
good.
Yeah, this one was like $40, but I know that we've talked about it a bunch, and I know you use it often as a source, so
I
figure it
do.
was a
I
good
use it.
one. Yeah.
It is a wealth of information, first of all, and
Mm,
like I said, her other books are equally as incredible. Like she does
nice.
one on like almost like I think it's poison under the bramble arch, and she does like there's
Ah,
another like one about poisons or something like it's about
mm,
something root, the something root, I don't know.
hmm,
But it's
mm.
definitely worth your time.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a few books coming in actually, so put in a new order. All right. Ooh, I'm looking very. There we go. I don't need all that light. Give me the darkness. Okay. So the oh, and then just a brief thing. In the Victorian language of flowers, white poplar symbolizes time, which is pretty cool. Okay, then we have the sun dance. So the sun dance, I couldn't find a ton of information. A lot of, I think, First Nations and Indigenous customs are a little bit like they're not often written about. Obviously, oral tradition is like the primary form of storying, but also I think just to kind of not have it so widespread. But this is what I
Yeah,
could find.
maybe.
So, yeah. So the Sundance is considered sacred. It's a practice by a lot of Plains Indigenous nations, and I list some of them down here. So traditions vary, but it often involves prayer, renewal, sacrifice, and community gathering, healing, reaffirming relationships between the people, the community, the land. And so in some of these groups use cottonwood trees as like the central ceremonial pole of like the dance lodge, which is kind of like the central area of the ceremony. And then oftentimes, or in some traditions, selecting the tree itself is part of the ceremony, which makes sense from what we know about like First Nations, very much like in touch with the land. So they often describe things like sending prayers to the tree, giving offerings, especially tobacco, specific ceremonial protocols like bathing, community participation, really respectful cutting of the tree and transport of the tree. And the tree oftentimes is seen as like a living relative or a participant, not just like a piece of wood, as we know is the case with a lot of indigenous cultures and just anything in nature, anyways. So a lot of the groups and the peoples that participate in this, Lakota people, Dakota people, Nakota people, Cheyenne, Blackfoot Confederacy, lots of different groups. So
A
again, I couldn't
lot.
really find, I know, yeah. Um, I couldn't really find specifically what the ceremony was about, but I do know that it seems cottonwood or some type of poplar usually is kind of the centerpiece of the ceremony.
Nice.
Then we have the Dene. So cottonwood appears in some of the Dene traditions and like ceremonial landscapes, especially because of the connection to water, right? And so because it's connected to water, it's associated with life-giving. So water, fertility, needed shade, living habitat, especially in the Southwest Americas. So the cottonwood is a big tree to like the Dene people. Okay, so then medicinal, analgesic, antipyretic, anti-inflammatory, diuretic, antimicrobial, antiseptic. And the bark is the most commonly used. It's the one that's like most medically significant. Often prepared in decoctions, powders, and tinctures is the three most common ways to use them. There are some mentions of using the leaves mostly as poultices though, so like externally but not much, mostly bark. And then the cat skins or the buds, mostly just for the balm of Gilead and in like the one specific or the small specific species, group of species, but mostly the bark. Now, I do want to, because there's so many different species of poplar, not all of them are have all of these medicinal properties. So I just want to give you like a quick one. So the quaking aspen, again, which we will talk about, but indigenous and settler medicinal uses. This was the big one, was quaking
Now, let
aspen.
me just tell you, we are going
Mm,
to, there is an ass ton of indigenous medicinal uses that we are going to
okay.
dive into.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
just letting you
this
know,
one,
like so many, like so many,
yeah.
like every
Yeah.
nation does something different and something, they're a little bit, it's
Yeah.
tons. So, just
Yeah,
letting
and
you
I
know.
did want to go into it because I
Yeah,
figured you would.
yeah.
So, but this is the most commonly used medicinal species of poplar.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it says feeve for feeve.
Fever.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so you can use white poplar and black poplar also medicinally, but less commonly. So used in like European herbal medicine for fever, York, of course, and like urinary complaints. And then black poplar mostly for anti-inflammatory pain, fever, things like that. But quaking aspen is the most commonly used medicinally. Poplar and willow, again, are botanically related, right? They're part of the same family. And so both are known for the like aspirin-like qualities, right? The salicin compound. So even though most of the time when we're talking about the salicin compounds, like the aspirin-like compounds, we talk about in willow, but you can also find them in poplar as well. Okay, so then we have, oh yeah, so this is kind of like combining medicinal and magical, but there's a cultist called Charles Godfrey Leland, who said that if you make a whistle made from the bark, it's supposed to help with sciatica.
Got a couple of those too with this, which is interesting.
Nice. Okay,
Sometimes we
cool.
have
Yeah.
those, sometimes we don't, but I
Yeah.
have a couple with
I
them.
love a good folk remedy. I don't know if they actually
Yeah.
work, but hey, placebo effect is
Let's
still
worth
in
a
effect, you
go if
know?
you have sciatica
Yeah.
pain because
Yeah.
sometimes there's not a lot you can do. So
Yeah. Yeah,
nerve pain
honestly.
sucks ass. I am here to tell
Yeah.
you.
Oh,
Like I
crazy.
understand nerve pain and it is
Yeah,
the
no,
worst.
thank
And
you.
there's not a
Ugh.
lot you can do. So
Yeah.
I may
So
make a
hey, try
whistle. I
whistle.
make yeah,
Yeah, there
I
you
am.
go.
I'm gonna go find a poplar and make a whistle out of it.
There you go. And then we have oh, the agu tree practice. So for
Oh, okay.
agu,
Yeah. That's funny.
is that
So we're
agu?
gonna
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about that
Okay,
ague.
nice. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is for popular genus though. So instructed to for the person who has a fever to pin or fasten a lock of their hair onto a black poplar, and then recite the charm Agu Agu, leave me now into this tree I thee endow, and then you pass your sickness onto the tree. Okay, so let's go into magical stuff.
Okay.
Element, I found two, air and water. Air because of the trembling, the fluttering of the leaves, the whispering sounds, the movement, communication. This might be more specifically for Aspen, but water, obviously, because it's near liminal shorelines, right? It's in like water spaces where it grows, so obviously directly associated with water. Season, mostly going to be autumn because it's tied to transition, endings, renewal. There's lore about the underworld, shedding of the leaves, things like that. Planet, mostly going to be the moon. So silver foliage, especially the white poplar. Reflective leaf movement. The movement can be a little bit reflective. Dreams, divination, again with the threshold. Anything that's associated with like threshold stuff is kind of moon-ish, I think. Maybe also, I don't know, maybe like Pluto a little bit, but changing appearance in the wind, things like that. Um, and then astrological sign. Oh, I also found a couple of places said Saturn, but didn't say why. So,
Okay.
astrological sign Pisces. The again the water edge habitats, the hidden like interconnectedness of the root system feels kind of Pisces like. The liminal spaces also kind of feels a little Pisces. Tarot, I couldn't really find much. I found one place that said the moon, which I guess kind of makes sense. I mean, we're associating with the planet moon, and so hidden truths, subconscious movement, the whispering, all of that stuff. And then chakra, I couldn't find anything on chakra, but I thought maybe third eye because we're talking about whispering and listening, but also root because of like this big massive root system. So very like grounding and like spreading of the roots.
Nice.
Um yeah, but those are the associations. I mean, any additions to these before we go on?
No, I've got more that has to do probably specifically with Aspen because there's like
Mm,
specific Aspen things that are not reflected in the poplar or the cottonwood.
yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. So goddesses, three, Persephone, obviously the underworld connection, seasonal, liminal threshold information, sacred landscapes, grief also, and like renewal. So Persephone, I can get on board with that. Then we have the Lucy or Luke, who is the Hades Pluto story that we talked about. So obviously, she's like tied directly to this. And then the sisters that we talked about who were crying near the river and turned into poplars. So I couldn't really find much. Again, it's hard to keep it specifically to poplar. I found a lot of stuff for aspen, found out some stuff for cottonwood, but poplar, not a lot of stuff on poplar specifically. Okay, so then we have protection slash boundary stuff, which makes sense because again, it is like, ooh, fell out of my ear. It is a it's a boundary tree, right? It's like at the boundary areas, so probably good for like boundary work, and then boundary work is often in my mind associated with protection. So especially anytime that we're moving between worlds. So like going from endings to new beginnings, grief work, shadow work, navigating any type of uncertainty, that type of stuff. Also moon and like duality stuff, specifically the white poplar, I think, because the white poplar is so, this one is like the most associated with moon, I think. We have the dark green top of the leaves, the silvery white underside of the leaves. And so when the wind moves, you can kind of see this back and forth between the dark top of the leaf and the very pale underside, which is heavily associated, I think, for like anything that comes with duality, right?
Hmm.
Good and bad, dark and light, all of these things. And like being fluid between the duality. So like again, moon magic, duality, hidden and revealed truth. So good use for them. Things like emotional processing. Anytime you're having trouble balancing the opposites, I don't know if I've talked about this a lot in this, but for a long time I had a lot of trouble balancing like the more like magical aspect with the more scientific aspect because I felt like those were two halves of my brain that just did not want to connect. And now I feel better about that. But like if you're having trouble going between two places or two worlds like this could be beneficial, I think.
Nice.
Yeah. So then we also have courage, like surviving ordeals, resilience, strength after hardship. Again, we have the white poplar worn as a crown after like the Hercules games and after coming back from the underworld. So any type of like resilience, perseverance, that type of stuff. And then transformation, right? So grief transformed, sorrow becoming kind of like beauty, or like finding ways to continue moving even after sorrow, mourning and remembrance, memorial work, any type of grief rituals would probably be really good for Poplar. Transformation after loss, especially like yourself, right? Transforming kind of yourself after this really heavy time, emotional release. And again, it being associated with grief and growing in water, I think is heavily associated with things like emotional release. And that's it.
Awesome.
Yay,
Woohoo! I love that.
Poplar.
And it's so interesting because we are doing these back to back. So like and subscribe below, and we're gonna get right into like another like a variety of the species Populus in the next presentation. So I like how you kind of teased out popular
Mm,
because I'm gonna try to
yeah,
tease out something else. So anyway,
nice.
I hope you
Yay.
enjoyed this as much as I did, and we will see you at the next Ditch Witch Diaries.